All right, BookTube, today is going to be a fun day because we finally get to answer the question that's been on the tip of everyone's tongue. Who is definitively the best Razormaster, the best swordsman, the best fighter, the ultimate killer in PierceBrown's RedRising universe? I know you've all got your favorites. I've seen your lists, and I'm here today to tell you conclusively that you're all wrong. You're all wrong. That is not the correct answer. Today, we're going to find out the definitive list of who is the best Razormaster, the ultimate fighter. Who do we least want to meet in a dark, abandoned tunnel? Okay, this is where it immediately gets difficult because I've said Razormaster, swordsman, fighter, and killer, and I think the list is different depending on what word you use there, because ultimately context matters. The technology available matters. If we just planted all of our individual fighters on a planet and he who survives the longest wins, then the answer is probably Sevro. But Sevro is probably not the best Razormaster. In fact, he's not the best Razormaster. He's a better fighter than he is swordsman. So context matters. And in the end, what I'm going to be talking about here is the best fighter. And razors are the most lethal weapon in terms of a one-on-one weapon. And so that is where I'm going to be heavily biased. So naturally, this is going to have spoilers all the way through to the end of Lightbringer. If you haven't read to the end of Lightbringer, then don't watch this video because I'm going to spoil a whole bunch of deaths. I want to be name dropping every single individual who has killed or slain another individual in this story. Wait until you have caught up and read Lightbringer and then come and give us all of your theories. And you can then tell me in the comment section of this video why my list is wrong. You'll be wrong because this is the definitive list. This is the list that's going to be PierceBrown's stamp of approval, best Razormasters. So let's get going. The way that I've set up my tier list here is top 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 10, 11 plus. I'm going to be dropping them in there. It's not going to make sense because I'm going to end up having like 15 people in the top 6. And then at the end of it, I'll cull them and work it out and I'll give you the definitive list. So the first one we've got up here is Volsung Fa. This dude I love. If you've watched any of my videos as well, you'll know that I love to say this dude's name, Volsung Fa. What do we know about him? We know that Volsung Fa is the best Gorgon that Atlas has ever had. He managed to rise to the top of the Ascomani, which is a pretty darn impressive feat given that this is a group of people, a group of obsidian offshoots essentially that respect power and respect authority. And he managed to work his way through and ultimately kill his way to the top. This is an impressive dude. He was also the other half of what is my favorite one-on-one duel. Clang, 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 confess, Volsung. You are not nearly as good as Darrow, and for this reason, I'm actually going to be pretty conservative here. Volsung Fa is going to come in straight into the 7 to 10 sort of range. We'll see if that's where he stays. He's a formidable fighter. He relies heavily on the poison in his armor, and that's okay. This is the dude's armor that he wears. You get to pick your armor, you get to pick what weapons you bring to the fight, and that's what Volsung brings. So we can't knock him down just because dudes want to impale themselves on his spikes and then die 3 minutes later and watch him decapitate their head, reach into their body, hold on to their heart and scream worthy. Ultimately, Volsung, you are unworthy, and that's why you're going to be slotting in the 7 to 10 sort of range. We'll see if you stick it out there in the ultimate fighter list for RedRising. Next, we've got Sevro. So this is where I say that it's interesting. You put everyone on that planet and say the last person to survive wins. Sevro is probably the right answer. This dude just naturally understands how to move in the shadows. What he did to Apollonius, making him look like an absolute fool. Apollonius had Sevro bound in chains, beaten, and yet somehow he manages to get free, take a chunk out of Apollonius's cheek and potentially even slice his throat open, and then be a one-man wrecking ball, managing to set off a nuclear warhead. No, Sevro is absolutely deadly, and if you planted everybody on that planet, Sevro is probably in the top 3, if not the most lethal fighter. Darrow says at one point in time that only Valdir is more lethal, a better killer than what Sevro is, and so it is interesting. I could argue that Sevro is a top 6 fighter. But that's just not the level of respect that he has in the RedRising universe. People fear him, like absolutely fear him, because he stays for like a 6-course meal or whatever the phrasing was. But ultimately, people do not talk about Sevro in the same way that they talk about Darrow, as they talk about Ajax even, or Apollonius, Cassius, Diomedes, and these types. So I'm going to actually slot Sevro into the 7 to 10 range. He's a better fighter than Volsung Fa. If the thing lets me move it there. But we'll see if he survives there. I think people low-key play down Sevro's abilities. The dude is still alive. Like, not many people have survived the end of 6 books. Perhaps he has a little bit of plot armor and his name doesn't make it to the death hat. But either way, Sevro is a formidable force. He is amazing, but he's just not talked about with the same level of reverence as a few of our other fighters are. And so for that reason, he's not going to crack my top 6, I don't think. But Sevro, I respect you, sir. You're Howler number 2 for a reason. Next up, we've got Daxo, our Telemanus, one of our peerless guard golds from the Telemanus clan. I think about early days when we see him in Morningstar, where Daxo and Cavax are fighting alongside each other atop Quicksilver's tower, and they're going 2v1 against Ragnar. And Ragnar is an absolute beast of a fighter. If you can remember that situation, Cavax ends up getting captured and Daxo survives. He's able to hold Ragnar at bay and then eventually escape. Daxo was a pretty darn good fighter. And Daxo is the source of one of my favourite little quotes, and this comes from Mustang, following the day of red doves. About 10 metres away, Daxo kills and maims in a tyrannical whirlwind like the kind Darrow and only few others still living have ever seen in person, much less produced. The 4 metres of death that Daxo produces is darn impressive. But it's one thing to do this to a group of Reds. It's another thing entirely to do it to a group of Pillar-scarred, Obsidians, or trained Greys. So Daxo is going to come into that 11 plus sort of range. We'll see exactly where he's going to fit in there. But Daxo, formidable fighter, but ultimately not the top tier that we're talking about. Next up, we have Aja, our Grimmus. The quote that immediately comes to mind for Aja is one from Lorn. Never fight a river and never fight Aja. I think Lorn himself realizes that one of the last ones that he taught to fight in the Willow Way ultimately ended up being better than him, because I think she had better physical traits than what Lorn has. Mind you, we don't get a lot of data on Lorn because he is an old man by the time we're introduced to him. But Aja is scary. She was a shadow that just sat over the top of the Republic and everything they were trying to achieve in that first trilogy. Aja in a room just emanated fear. People were so scared. People couldn't achieve what they wanted to achieve if Aja was in the room. So here's a quote from Golden Sun. Why didn't you kill Octavia? Pliny squints at me skeptically. I couldn't have. I was in a room with Aja our Grimmus. Perhaps if you were there, you could have done better. But I am a mortal man. The praetors who know their business laugh. Even Lorn our Arcos wouldn't have dared, Augustus mutters. And I once saw him kill Stained without a razor. Darrow did as he could. So here we see people that are in the know, that understand who Lorn was and who Aja was, just absolutely laughing at the idea of being able to kill anyone that you want, despite the fact that Aja is in a room. She is a fearsome, fearsome woman. Aja took some absolutely massive scalps along with her. We know that she ended up killing Ragnar, which is really disappointing. Not only did she defeat Ragnar, but she was able to use his size and his rage against him, lulling him into a position so that she could use her Willow Way to the greatest effect and actually kill him. And she was ruthless, right? Not only did she then actually stab him once, or rather like slice open his spinal cord once, as soon as she was standing there, as Darrow is about to rush to her, she doesn't turn and flee or give her attention to Darrow right then in the moment. She stabs Ragnar again twice over just to make sure she gets the kill. She had a level of speed and ferocity that was absolutely fearsome. In Golden Sun as well, right at the end of the first Iron Rain, is the first time that Darrow actually fights Aja, and she defeats him in 3 moves. Now, we all know that she came to her demise at the end of Morningstar in what was an epic 4v1 battle. And when it was 3v1 with Cassius, Darrow, and Mustang, she was winning. Undoubtedly, she was winning. It was when Sevro jumps up, jacked up on Hermantha soil, full of absolute roids and rage, that the 4v1 battle got the better of her. As is the case with all of these battles, context matters, and there are caveats applied to all of these. She had the technology advantage here in that she was in her pulse armor. In comparison, Darrow had just had his arm chopped off. Mustang is good, but she doesn't deserve to be in the same room as Aja or Cassius or Darrow realistically. Morningstar version of Darrow is probably the weakest version of him that we actually see throughout the series. On the other side of this, though, I honestly believe that those that are trying to protect someone or trying to achieve a particular objective are forever at a disadvantage. We had 10-year-old Lysander in the room, and we also had Octavia bleeding out on the ground. This matters because Aja was distracted, but ultimately she met her match. Aja's speed, her brutality, the way that she just invoked fear in everyone. She was the ultimate antagonist throughout that first trilogy. I have huge respect for Aja. I understand people that want to say that Apollonius and Ajax proved that they could defeat the Willow Way, that the Willow Way has now been defeated. Aja was so skillful and so powerful. I think she would be fighting Apollonius in Dark Age and understand, oh, he has figured out some of the things. He's anticipating the Willow Way in a way that I haven't yet encountered. And I think she is skillful enough and has enough speed that she would be able to adapt mid-fight. This is how much respect I have for Aja. So I'm sorry for everyone that wants to say, no, the Willow Way is defeated and what. And like, no, she is still absolutely formidable. Aja is top 3 for me. If you think otherwise, I'm sorry, you're wrong. Not all opinions are created equal. Aja is scary good. So next up, we have Valdir the Unshorn. Now, there is every chance that in the Rat Wars, which is like the coolest battle that we don't get to actually have on page, but there's every chance that Valdir during the Rat Wars was like the most dangerous individual getting around. The amount of fear that he invokes in a dark corridor, like if I had to pick one fighter, I'm probably taking this dude in with me in a dark tunnel and be like, lead the way, Valdir, I'll follow through. No, Valdir is undoubtedly impressive. He's feared and respected by all of the Obsidians, and we get that one little tidbit that he is one of the very few to have a one-on-one duel with Apollonius and actually survive. Valdir, again, is said by Darrow to be probably the only person that is more lethal, a better killer than what Sevro is. Valdir is impressive, but geez, there are some impressive individuals on this list. I think Volsung is probably better than Valdir, and so I think there are enough awesome names on this list that Valdir is going to slide in that 11 plus sort of range. We'll see if I can pull him through. I would back Valdir, however, over Daxo. I think he's too big, he's too strong, he's too good. So Valdir, you are impressive. You're just not the top of the top. Next up, we have Atlas Al-Ra, the Fear Knight himself. Now, Atlas, again, we actually don't get to see Atlas fight all that often on page. And I do believe that Atlas is probably a better leader, a better strategist than he is outright fighter. We know that he is able to survive out with the Askamani, with the group of Gorgons that he's taken. That's pretty darn impressive. We see him battle, not battles are probably a generous word, we see him absolutely humiliate Tharsis. But in that, he has the scepter or whatever that is, that other unique weapon. But still, like, Atlas steps on your planet and people are scared of him. He's an interesting character. He is undoubtedly skilled and talented. He holds his own against Cassius, and you'll see soon that I respect Cassius a heck of a lot. And he takes Cassius's hand, and we always hear about the fact that he was depleted. He was tired after a massive epic mission that we don't really get to hear about how it is that he got the weapon that he got and what was involved with the Edme or whatever we want to call it. So yes, he was tired, but people are tired all the time when they have these sorts of battles. Cassius was able to fire like 15 rounds from a pulse rifle into his armor as well before he got down there and actually faced him one-on-one. All of these things matter. But ultimately, this is my list, and I believe that Atlas is a better leader, a better strategist than he is ultimate fighter. Still to be feared, still to be respected. But there's a reason why Volsung Fa became the lead of the Askamani and not Atlas. Even though Atlas is in the background pulling the strings, yada yada, I totally get it. I think Volsung was probably a better warrior, a better fighter than Atlas. And so Atlas, you're going to come on into 11 plus. There's every chance that that is absolute garbage and he's like the 4th best fighter on the whole list. We just didn't get to see it. So next up, we have Cassius Bellona. Not Al Bellona, Cassius Bellona. The Chin, our favorite son. The man whose honor still remains. Now, Cassius is probably the best classical Razormaster on this entire list. He is a student of the Razor. The way that he's able to observe Darrow the Apollonius and go, I have an idea for you, let's go and do this. Versus Volsung Fa, do not use your grav boots. This is why. He identifies things that others overlook, and for this reason, he should be feared. He is an amazing fighter. He believes himself to be in the top 3 Razormasters over the last 60 years, with himself, Darrow, and Diomedes. All the way back into Golden Sun, he ends up defeating Victra, Ares, and Ares is an amazing fighter. He would be in that 11 plus kind of range if I added him to this list as well. But Cassius at that point in time was just learning his craft, and he was able to defeat Victra. In Morningstar atop of Quicksilver's tower, he was the alpha male in that room. The way that he was this black cat prowling through the group to get himself closer to the howlers so that he could actually get himself into an advantageous position. I loved the visuals of that scene. Darrow trusted him to take point when he takes on Aja. Now that is absolutely saying something. Into Iron Gold, and we see him defeat Bellerophon in what was an epic kind of battle. He was disadvantaged there. He was fighting against a razor type that he was not familiar with, fighting against a fighting style that he was not familiar with. And ultimately, he defeated the guy who I think was probably like the second best fighter amongst the Rim Golds. Another dude that would be in that 11 plus range, I think, if I added him to this list. But I've just got so few data points for Bellerophon, so he doesn't make it to here. But we also see that Lysander, who had been fighting alongside Cassius for 10 plus years, thought that this was the greatest gold swordsman still to live until they saw Diomedes fight. Cassius is really freaking impressive, and ultimately he's the man who kills fear, and that says a heck of a lot. Cassius is amazing for me. I'll stop complimenting him because I have a man crush on him. The chin, he comes up in that 4 to 6 range. I think Aja is still better than what Cassius becomes. Some might disagree. I just kind of don't care. Cassius is amazing. Aja was just scarier than Cassius. So Cassius in that 4 to 6 range. Next up, we've got Alexander our Arcos, the grandson of Lorn our Arcos, the ultimate Razormaster. No, the Wunderkind. This is, man, I'm disappointed by when Alexander went. But no, my favorite quote for Alexander comes in Iron Gold in the battle for Venus, I believe it is. Sevro limps toward me. His left arm bends the wrong way at the elbow, and I can see charred flesh through fissures in his armor. I scan the remains of my howlers and realize with a sinking feeling that Pebble and Clown are nowhere in sight. Thraxa sits propped up against a retaining wall as Tongueless administers first aid. Alexander alone is uninjured. His shell is a smoking wreck, but he stands free of it, almost elegant amidst the carnage despite the shell shock in his eyes. The elegance with which Alexander fights with is reminiscent of Cassius. If only someone had a little bit more honor. Alexander, I think, could ultimately have made his way all the way up in that 4 to 6 range, pushing even the top 3. That's how much respect I had on Alexander. But I'm not going to project ahead. When he died, he was good, but he was plucky more than anything. So Alexander, you are impressive, sir. You're going to come in that 11 range. I know automatically that I'm going to put you in front of Daxo so you can make your way there. I've pushed you all in front of Valdir. Sure, you can sit there at this point in time. Atlas you're probably better than Atlas as well. So let's bring you back into there. But Alexander, I have a heck of a lot of respect for you, but I don't think you're going to crack the top 10. Next up, we have Thraxa our Telamanus, another really, really impressive woman. She was Darrow's hammer. She was renowned for the girl that had the thickest of thighs, which is important. I'm not just commenting on the female figure. It's important to have a strong base and a low center of gravity when you're fighting. Did I cover myself well enough there? Okay, good. No, Thraxa. She is impressive. She fights alongside Darrow for a very long time, joins him for 10 years worth of conflict. I love the fact that she's running around with a hammer. Everybody else is fighting with a sword or a razor or a slate pulse fist or something like that. And she's like, nah, stuff you all. I'm Thor. I want a hammer. I think that's kind of cool. She was part of the duo that ultimately defeated Ajax. She's good, but she does get it handed to her occasionally. That quote that I just read about Alexander being the only one without a scar next to him, Thraxa just prior to that had 2 stains with their feet on top of her chest about to scalp her. So she does get defeated every now and then. So I think Thraxa is in that 11 plus range. I think she would beat her bigger brother, but I think Valdir potentially would end up beating her. Next up, we have Diomedes our Ra, my favorite of the Rim Gold, the humble and honorable Storm Knight. He is quite clearly a favorite of mine. But again, this is someone who we actually get very little on-page fighting time. And it's Cassius's opinion of Diomedes that does a lot of the heavy lifting. It'll be Diomedes where I get the most criticism because people will say, oh, you're projecting ahead. But no, I don't think I'm projecting. I just think it's going to be in Red God that we're going to see that 1v1 fight that we've been absolutely hanging to see. I thought I was going to get it between Ajax and Diomedes and was super disappointed once I finished Lightbringer to discover that PierceBrown wrote like an 11-page epic fight scene between Diomedes and Ajax, but ultimately decided to cut it and killed Ajax much earlier. So that's really quite disappointing. That was the fight that I wanted to see, and I think we will get to see it in the next book. Perhaps it's going to be a Diomedes v Apollonius or something like that. I'm not quite sure who the best fighter is left for him to have a genuine one-on-one fight with, it probably will be Apollonius. And I'm here for that. And I'm actually really quite confident that he will defeat Apollonius, just as Cassius was confident, where he made the comment where he was like, trust me, Diomedes would eat Apollonius alive. We also have that other quote from Cassius where he says that Diomedes, Darrow, and Cassius are likely the three best Razormasters over the last 60 years, and they're sitting in a room together. And finally, we have that quote through Lysander in Iron Gold. Diomedes lifts his rigid razor to his lips. He closes his eyes and kisses the metal. Then his eyes open, and the spirit behind them bears no kindness. When Diomedes moves, they begin to die. I watch in awe and glance at Cassius. I thought he was the greatest gold swordsman left. By the look on his face, I know that that presumption was shared and mutually shattered the moment Diomedes moved. So I think that's really cool, where Cassius thought he was like the GOAT, the best of the best, or whoever else was remaining. And Lysander felt that way as well. And then they watched Diomedes merely move and were like, oh, gosh dang, this dude can fight. So Diomedes has some things that are to his advantage. He fights with that longer razor, which is unique amongst all of the core golds. He has a different style as well. But the dude is an absolute student of warfare. And we learn that when he studies Thraxa and can recognize Thraxa's fighting style, which is another like little notch in the belt for Thraxa. She was good enough that she was worth studying. That's quite nice. But no, Diomedes is an absolute student. I don't think I can say the same for the likes of Ajax and Apollonius. Apollonius studies the Willow Way because he wants to defeat Darrow. I don't think he's going to study anybody else to the same degree. He wasn't studying Thraxa, for example, but Diomedes was an absolute student when it comes to that. He's the JJ Watt, putting in the hours after hours as well. Not JJ Watt. Let's go for Luke Kuechly, perhaps, an absolute student of the game. I'm undoubtedly a huge fan of Diomedes. This may shock some people, but I think Diomedes is pretty darn good. I trust Cassius. Cassius does not believe that he could defeat Diomedes, but I also don't believe Diomedes could defeat Aja. And so I'm putting Diomedes up in that top three, but I think Aja might have the upper hand. Next up, we have Ajax our Grimmus, the son of Aja. Ajax, the Storm Knight of Society remnant, the core golds that are left. We hear that in the 10 years prior to Iron Gold, that he was able to cut off the fingers of Darrow just before Darrow eventually cuts off his nose as well in another fight. So he has multiple conflicts with Darrow and survives. Like, that's pretty darn impressive. Okay, that's point number one. We hear him described by Marcus and Roan, two people that fought alongside or saw his mum fight, that he was her equal, or in one way being a closer, actually better than what Aja was. So that's his second point there. We also have Lysander say that it's common knowledge that Ajax is worth 4 of the other Olympic knights. Okay, that's point number 3. That's pretty darn impressive. But ultimately, the dude dies to Victra and Thraxa. Yes, he was ambushed. Yes, there were a whole bunch of other obsidians. Yes, he was outnumbered. Yes, it was 2v1. I don't care. Thraxa is in the 11 plus range. Victra will be pushing that 11 plus or the 7 to 10 sort of range. And they killed him. They killed Ajax. Now, I also have read all of the comments on subreddit. Yes, I have heard PierceBrown talk about it, where PierceBrown said that at the time of his death, Ajax was very likely the best fighter in the whole universe. I'm like, cool story, PierceBrown, but you didn't write that into effect. That's not what we actually get to read when we read about Ajax. He was just not that person. So I copy, that's what you would visualize, but it's not what you wrote. And I am going to go off what you wrote. Very good killer can string together a set of 3 moves in an onset. A 1 second of pre-programmed, carefully cultivated strikes. Everyone has their signature. As one of the top 50 with a blade in the core, Cassius could do 5. I once saw Lorn do 8. Ajax does 8. It isn't to say he's as good as Lorn, but he is as fast, and fighting him is like being plunged into cold water. Pure shock. So this is great. This is from Darrow, and I trust Darrow's opinion as well. Because Darrow's fought all of these freaking people. And here we actually have him say that he doesn't think he's potentially as good as what Lorn was, which is interesting. Because again, we don't get to see a lot of Lorn on page. But no, Ajax is freaking impressive. Ajax is coming up to the into here. Ajax v Cassius is an interesting conversation. I'm going to leave it exactly where it is. I think Diomedes would beat Ajax. I think Cassius v Ajax is an interesting idea. I'll leave that there and we'll come to it at the end. Next up, we have Lorn Arcos, the guy that everyone compares themselves to. He was the dude before they started measuring things. He was the GOAT. I love that comment from Holiday, potentially. Arcos in a corridor was death incarnate. What a sentence. What a way to describe someone. He wasn't an iron gold. He was just the most ruthless freaking killer that existed, period. Now, the problem that I have with Lorn is that he was, like 60 odd years of age by the time that we got to see him fight. But he still had this fear. He still had this respect. Lorn makes a simple proclamation. If anyone comes within 2 meters of Darrow, I kill everyone in this room. They don't seem eager to call his bluff. The men I walk between jump backward. Lorn's reputation carves a hole for me straight to Pliny, and I don't break pace. Kill him, Pliny screams. Kill the Reaper. A young man lurches forward and dies as his neighbour stabs him in the back. The neighbour looks fearfully to Lorn. 2.3 meters, Lorn says. Close. What an absolute badass. This is absolutely epic, and it shows the level of fear that people have for Lorn. And what I love is that there were other, like, legit fighters in this room. There were Stained, there were Obsidians. Moira was in this room. The Storm Knight, before the Storm Knight became Ajax, was in this room. And they were like, no, not worth it. Not taking on Lorn. All of us combined cannot defeat Lorn Arcos. That's how much respect this dude had. The problem that I have here, as I've said it a few times, is Lorn for me is like Sir Donald Bradman. For anyone who understands cricket, you'll know immediately what I mean. Sir Donald Bradman was playing cricket in the 30s and 40s, and he ended up retiring with a batting average of 99.94 or 99.96, in that sort of realm. The next best average, like forever since then, not only during that time, but even to this day, is like 62. The dude is so much better when it comes to an average in comparison to everyone else. But how do I project that forward to today's kind of values? It's interesting. Maybe I can't. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe he is just the greatest of all time and he should be the #1 seed. But he's just not going to be the #1 seed. I think Lorn acknowledges that Aja ultimately ended up being better. So Lorn, I'm going to slide on in here. Is Lorn better than Ajax? Is he better than Cassius? You know what? I'm probably guilty of some cognitive dissonance here, but I'm going to put Lorn. He's in that top 6. He is absolutely freaking amazing. And I understand where people go, well, you have to now put Apollonius in front of him. Apollonius defeated the Willow Way, but I'm just not going to. Again, Lorn deserves respect. I respect my elders. Just because you don't, you can go create your own list, because that's where Lorn is going to sit. He is amazing. I love Lorn. Okay, next up, we've got Victra Julii, one of my favorite characters. Like, the things that I would let this woman do. Okay, let's not get too distracted. Obviously, she was involved in an epic scene, but prior to that, back in Morningstar, like, the chick can bench 300 kilograms, which is freaking impressive, and she kept pace with Darrow on board Roke's ship, the flagship and the Sword Armada. And ultimately, it was Victra alongside Thraxa that took the head of Ajax, someone who is pretty darn impressive. I rate in the top 4 to 5 swordsmen. So Victra is amazing. I'm going to bring Victra into this 7 to 10 range. This might be a little bit controversial for some, but I think she will take another big scalp when it comes to Red God. I think she's better than Volsung Fa. Don't want to hear about it. I think Victra might wear the pants in the Victra-Sevro relationship, and I don't know many people would disagree. Is Sevro a better killer? Would Sevro survive longer on that island? Yeah, I think he would. But Victra, as a swordsman, as a Razormaster, I think she takes the nod in front of Sevro. So I'm putting her in that 7 to 10 range. I fiercely respect Victra. Domina, you are amazing. All right, next up, we have Apollonius Valii-Rath. I don't even know if I say the dude's name right. The Minotaur. How fun is the freaking Minotaur? I wouldn't mind if he could narrate the entire story of Red God, if we could just see it from one perspective and it just be the Minotaur and have him either directly involved or getting around in a ghost cloak whenever he's not actually physically involved. The Minotaur is freaking amazing. So we see him actually defeat Darrow, but let's add some caveats on this because there's always caveats. Darrow was depleted. His body was ravaged from radiation poisoning. Yes, he had been fighting and practicing for the last 5 months in the Willow Way, but Apollonius was preparing like his entire life for this battle. People compare themselves, or PierceBrown compares other people's ability to survive against Apollonius. We hear that Valdir is one of the only people to ever actually survive a one-on-one fight with Apollonius. But we do see Apollonius and Atlas ultimately get defeated by Valdir and Darrow. Atlas gets away, but Apollonius gets captured. So this is a good data point. We also have another data point that Valdir and his obsidians, his 65 obsidians or whatever it is, ends up being too strong for Apollonius in the battle for Phobos, I think it is. But he ends up killing 10 obsidians, 10 probably stained, right? Like that's pretty darn freaking impressive. In the battle for Venus, where Apollonius is able to achieve something that Darrow and the rest of the Howlers are not. It was Apollonius that had to come and save his bacon. Alexander didn't get a scratch on him. Apollonius didn't get a scratch on him. It's pretty darn impressive. The other thing that we haven't really touched on is that Apollonius is likely developing or has developed and learnt how to use the Mind's Eye. We haven't necessarily seen him use that. I think that's going to come in Red God, and he will probably kill Victra. Maybe. Apollonius kill Victra? That could happen. Apollonius will kill Victra, and then Diomedes will end up killing Apollonius. I don't know. We'll save all of that to my theories, my Red God theories video. Right now, I'm looking at Apollonius. He's pretty darn freaking impressive. He is coming in that 4 to 6 range. Someone's probably going to get bumped along here. Who would win Apollonius v Ajax? This is where I have Ajax, and I am going to put Lorn in front of Apollonius here as well. He was fiercely, fiercely strong. What was Darrow saying? He's as strong as a stained, but has the speed of a peerless scarred. This combination that no one has. My blade held in front of me shakes like a leaf. I have felt strength like this before, from obsidian stained, but those blows require a sacrifice in grace. Apollonius's attacks sacrifice nothing. They are tight, well-timed, and so powerful. I fear he'll break my left arm if we continue parrying at the same rate. So Darrow puts him right on this top echelon when we hear him talk about him. PierceBrown has him on this top echelon in that he compares other people's abilities to Apollonius. Like if you become the yardstick, that's pretty darn impressive. So Apollonius, you deserve your spot in this 4 to 6 range. I can already see that my math isn't working here, but that's okay. We'll figure this out in a second. Next up, we have Ragnar Volarus, one of our absolutely favorite characters across this whole universe. I love the visuals when Darrow and Sevro are first introduced to Ragnar. If you can remember, he comes in here and offers Darrow these stains. And at this point in time, he has a razor still embedded in his belly, having just killed 10 greys, 6 obsidian, and 4 peerless scarred. Like, this dude is freaking impressive. He holds his own for a period of time, at least against Aja. And for me, Ragnar becomes the what if, the ultimate what if. What if Ragnar had been trained by a Razormaster growing up? He probably beats Aja. What if he was able to survive that moment and then fight alongside Darrow for the next 10 years? He's probably sitting in the top 3. What if? But unfortunately, we're not going to project ahead. Ragnar was absolutely freaking amazing. But he did die. He didn't make it through. And I think others ended up becoming a better fighter than what Ragnar was when Ragnar died. So Ragnar's coming in. He is better than Volsung Fa. I'm sorry. Sevro v Ragnar, that is an interesting one. I'll come back to that at some point in time. But Ragnar, you are in my 7 to 10 range. I respect you, sir. Last but not least, we have Darrow Arcos. Now, I'm sorry. This is not Golden Sun Darrow, RedRising Darrow. I've just got out of a box Morningstar Darrow. Dark Age Darrow. This is an interesting one. Dark Age Darrow. PierceBrown has said that Dark Age Darrow versus Morningstar Aja probably end up killing each other in a nil old draw. And I agree with that one. But something happened in Lightbringer. Clang, clang, clang. Can you hear it? That is the breath of stone. Darrow leveling up. And he is coming all the way up to the top of the list. He is the GOAT. I don't want to hear anyone else say otherwise. Fight me. This is my list. Darrow is the best that there ever is, and I would love to see him get leveled up once again and become the Red God with Figment inside his mind. But that's not going to be his lot in life. That's going to be his son, Pax, who's going to get Figment. Hear me now, quote me later. He will be the Red God. That's enough projecting ahead. Darrow is a freaking amazing fighter. We hear it from his perspective. We see it from his perspective. He's freaking amazing. I think he is better than Aja when it comes to the end of Lightbringer. Oh, I got one more. What's this? Oh, light resistance. That's right. He gets a box for all for himself. The pixie bitch, light resistance. Yeah, you have fun down there. All right. Let's look at this. This doesn't make sense. I've got 3 in the top 3, and I'm actually settled there. Darrow is the best fighter of all time. Aja comes in number 2. I don't want to hear any of this garbage. Aja's number 2. Diomedes. No, I'm not projecting. I think he is good, is as good as what he deserves to be right there, and we will get to see him defeat Apollonius in the next book. Diomedes Al-Ra, the humble Storm Knight, comes in at around top 3. I'm feeling super confident with that one. I don't want to hear otherwise. Jump in the comments. Tell me why you're wrong and why my top 3 is incorrect. Next, we've got Cassius, Ajax, Lorn, and Apollonius. I'm happy with Apollonius at the tail end of that. So that means Apollonius is going to get kicked down to be here. Cassius, Ajax, Lorn. It's probably my homerisms here. The Chin would probably get defeated by Ajax. But I don't care. It's my list. The Chin comes in at 4, then Ajax, then Lorn. There we go. I respect my elders. Lorn rounds out that top 6. Then we're coming through 7. I've got far too many people here. Apollonius at 7. Victra at 8. Sevro at 9. Oh, let's do it. And Ragnar at 10. Volsung Fa, you're getting booted. You're not in this list. Get on down to the 11 plus. Volsung Fa at 11. Yeah, no, that's valid. The dude is freaking dynamite, right? Alexander, Atlas, Valdir, Thraxa, Daxo. Look at that list. I've nailed it. I bloody well had it the first time around. Shouldn't have doubted myself. The best Razormaster in the whole RedRising universe is Breath of Stone, Darrow. Oh, I like this. What I like about this is if you look at who is left, Darrow still alive, fighting for the Republic. Aja, gone. Diomedes, alive, Republic. Cassius, bugger. Ajax, gone. Lorn, gone. Apollonius, Victra. Sevro, Ragnar, Volsung, Alexander, Atlas, Valdir, Thraxa. Like, look at this. It's 6 versus 1. I don't even care. Atalantia probably slots in there somewhere as well, but I don't respect you, Atalantia. You're going to die. Or who's going to kill you? Someone will kill you. I'm sure you'll die at some point in time there as well. Oh, Lysander. Okay, stop projecting ahead. This is so much fun. I absolutely love reading through these and trying to picture who would defeat who. We all want to know who the toughest kid on the block is. Yeah, well, now we get to figure out who the toughest kid, not in the planet, but the whole freaking galaxy is. There's a quote from Warrior there in that one somewhere. All right, jump into the comments. Tell me why I'm wrong. I will debate this. I will debate this. I've got the quotes. I've had a look at it. Tell me why I'm wrong. Last one as well. I just want to thank all of the amazing artists. I can't do art for absolute garbage. That's not who I am. I will chuck up all of your names on the screen right now. Thank you so much. Thank you for being creative. I apologize. There is probably 1 or 2 in there that is undoubtedly AI slop. All right, YouTube. Thanks very much. I've thoroughly enjoyed this one. Jump into the comments. Tell me why I'm wrong. I will debate you till the cows come home. Go and make your own list. This is my list. The best Razormasters, the best swordsman in PierceBrown's RedRising universe. Until next time, ciao.